is John Roome, and Wayne has asked me to say a few words about his show. I'm not sure if I should thank him or curse him, but because one never knows the repercussions of what one says. Yeah, well, I think, we live in an age of technology where things tend to become, in a way, quite superficial. If you're on Facebook, you either like something, or you love it, or you wow it, or you cry, or maybe you hate it. So you have these kind of emojis, and we tend to look at the world and instantly go, I like it. Oh, I like these paintings. But what does that actually mean? What does it mean? Isn't there something deeper? Isn't there a little bit more of a deeper engagement? And I think that a body of work like this, which you can all clearly see, is got hours and hours and hours of dedication and talent and hard work and sweat, blood, sweat and tears behind it, deserves a little bit more than just an emoji. So I actually don't think it really matters if you like it or not, or if it offends you or not. That's another thing. We're in an age where people tend to get offended so easily, and especially with a show like this, with forced nudity and all these naked ladies around. It reminds me of a little anecdote that happened recently at the Manchester Art Museum, where they actually took down a painting by a guy from late 19th, early 20th century. His name is John William Waterhouse, and it was a painting of nymphs in a pond. And the curators at the gallery actually took it down and said no, they wanted to start a debate about nudity and conformity and attitudes to the female, to the woman, and that people should rather put sticky notes on the wall where the painting was. And it was a bit of a reaction to that, and after a couple of weeks I actually put the painting back. So people tend to get very easily offended as well these days. So what I think is important though is to know a little bit about the context of this work and how it came about. Wayne was, believe it or not, actually a student of mine. He remembers, I don't remember so well, but way back in the 80s.
Yeah.
So, and Wayne was actually a guy who was very interested in art right from the beginning, and at school he did well at art, and I think art and history were his favorite subjects. But then he applied to do graphic design at what used to be the Tech, Hotel Tech. Couldn't get in for various reasons, and so got into fine art, where I was teaching. And then eventually he moved on and studied at Pietermaritzburg, and he set up his own business as a graphic designer, and he's done a number of things over the years. He's had, I wouldn't say a checkered career, but an interesting career. But then the interesting thing is how Wayne came back to painting, to these paintings, is that he was a very keen motorcyclist. Actually quite interesting, because in reading Wayne's little biography thing, he mentions me as someone who chatted over him because he broke his collarbone in a motorcycle accident. I can't believe it was me, because I've got a big Harley parked outside, and I've been riding bikes for my life, so it must be someone else. But anyway, he had this thing for motorcycles, and he did motocross, and one day he had the most horrific accident, which led to severe injury, brain injury, spinal injury, whatever, and he couldn't do anything. he couldn't function, he couldn't work, he couldn't focus, and he was totally depressed. Like what happens to you when you're involved in something like that. So suddenly he realized that the one thing he could do was paint. And he started painting, and he could focus, and he paints and paints, and has built up this amazing body of work. And I'm telling you this background because I think, you know, they say that a work of art speaks for itself, but I actually don't believe that, because I think you need to know something about the artist to really start to get deeper than the emoji response to the painting. Like, I mean, Vincent van Gogh's work is so much more meaningful to us because we know what he went through. And I'm not equating Wayne to Vincent van Gogh, but Wayne has been through a lot of stuff. And yes, his work is very different from Vincent van Gogh stylistically, but there's also that intensity that comes through in the work. The other thing I wanted to, I don't, because someone must just stop me if I'm going on too long. Just tell me to shut up, because I'm a lecturer, a retired lecturer, and I haven't lectured for a while, so now I'm catching up. But what I just wanted to talk about was actually how do we, because I've lectured art and art history, and I'm interested in how one approaches art. So I can't just look at this work and not try and categorize it, try and fit it into something. So where does this fit in? And Wayne himself professes to be a classicist. So what does that mean to be a classicist? Okay. Classicism takes us way back to ancient Greek and Rome, firstly with the Greeks, and where the whole idea of the human form as something perfect and something that we actually aspire to, the perfection of the human form, and this focus on the beauty of the human form, that's where it started. And it was kind of lost to the world for ages, throughout the Dark Ages, and then in the Renaissance it was picked up again by people like Leonardo and Michelangelo, who are famous, and lots of others, but that, which led to the whole philosophy through the revival of Greek classical ideas of what became humanism, and where this focus on the human form and man as the measure of all things. And then what happened through time was things evolved, and we get a movement called Romanticism, which follows on after classicism. And often art history lectures will tell you, there's Romanticism and Classicism, these two forces, and they are almost like opposed to each other, but it's important to understand how they interact with each other, because you couldn't have Romanticism without the Classicism. And the Romantics were interested in what we call the sublime, which I know Wayne is interested in philosophy, so he'll know about Immanuel Kant, who came up with this concept of the sublime. There were a couple of other philosophers as well who started talking about this in the 18th century, I think it was. And the concept of the sublime is that it's a sort of an aesthetic idea where you respond to something not really in the sense that it's pleasant and nice, getting back to our emojis, that you like, but you respond to something in the sense that it really stirs you up. So a sublime experience is not like we find the word sublime is used today, so the food was sublime. That's not what sublime means. Sublime is something deeper, something that it invokes almost terror or awe in you, like the power of nature, something that is beyond your control, something out there that is so powerful that you can only be in awe of it. And there you get, in Romanticism, you get painters who start looking at the landscape, and you'll get now the figure, instead of being the classical dominating measure of all things, becomes a tiny little figure in this huge expansive landscape. So one of my favorite artists is Caspar David Friedrich, who paints these amazing dark landscapes with small figures, and you just get this sublime feeling. Now, why am I talking about this? Okay, the reason why I'm talking about this is that if you start looking at Wayne's paintings, and particularly the one over there, the one over there, the one over there, the one over here, it's pure Caspar David Friedrich landscape in the background, is that element of the sublime that's coming through. And we're just talking this now to Wayne about how he approaches his paintings. And the thing is that he puts all the energy and all that effort into the figures. And he really sets the figures up, and he really focuses on that. And he's in control, he's in total control of how the figure is presented. And it's really masterly stuff. Wonderful. And then he says, oh, the background, it just comes afterwards. And he doesn't think too much about it. It's just more instinctive. And I find that very, very interesting, because for me, sometimes the backgrounds are what really makes the painting sing. They really make it interesting. They make it sublime. Because what's happening is actually something subconscious is coming, that Wayne is not in control of, but that he feels, and that's all around him. And that is, our bloody planet is falling apart. Where our world is falling apart around us, there are dark forces around us, there's a whole lot of stuff out there that we can't control. So you have this contrast of this beautiful human figure, totally controlled, totally in control, and then these dark things happening in the background, dark landscapes, the graffiti on the building behind there. The way that landscape. Another thing that's interesting, Wayne says he doesn't like abstraction. He can't handle it, he loves to be in control. But actually, if you look at some of the handling of the paint in that painting, it's quite abstract. It's quite free, it's quite loose. So, and it works because of that juxtaposition of the figures. Anyway, I've said far too much. As you can get, I'm very enthusiastic about this work. I think Wayne is just the most amazingly skillful artist, and he's talking about our world in a very unique way, sometimes in a way which I don't think he even realizes how profound it is. So congratulations, and well done, and enjoy the evening. Thank you.